There are two things that are inevitable in life: inequality and Scrooge Mcduck. Okay, what do I mean? Well, this idea comes from a book called Gods Amongst Men. Don't worry, you don't have to read the book, I've already read it for you. Basically, throughout all of human history, inequality has always existed, which is kind of obvious. But what's not so obvious is that inequality has always risen, not dramatically, but slowly, until one of three things happens: a famine, a war, or a plague. Three of the most horrible things that can happen to a society also tend to make a society more equal. You might ask, how can that be? Well, think about it this way. Imagine you're a billionaire king in the 1400s, and somebody has declared war upon you. Well, now you're forced to spend money on your people, your soldiers, whatever you need to prevent the enemy from taking your land. Otherwise, your head might end up on a spike. But that's where something interesting has happened in the modern day. The rich today have kind of become Scrooge Mcduck. You see, today, because of how far we've progressed as a society, the rich don't need to spend on the poor or the middle class. They can just hoard their money and swim in it like they're Scrooge Mcduck. And if a famine or a plague or a war happens, they can just take their money and leave and go to another country. Now, obviously, there are some limitations to this, but generally speaking, the rich don't see themselves as a part of a country anymore, but more of a global citizen. And if a famine or a war or a plague happens, they don't need to contribute anything to society to keep society functioning like old billionaires needed to. Heck, some of them can just take their money and leave if they want it. And this really brings me back to old cartoons like DuckTales with Scrooge Mcduck being really rich and really cheap at the same time. But if there is one thing that I've learned from Scrooge Mcduck, it's that you probably don't want to be like him. I mean, this is the guy who lost his entire fortune multiple times just because he was too obsessed with keeping a few pennies. But that's what's insane. There's no incentive for today's billionaires to not be like Scrooge Mcduck. They are incentivized to hold on to their money as long as possible. And it's crazy because when we think of older kings like King Henry VII or whatnot, we think of rich kings who acted more like Scrooge Mcduck. But in reality, billionaire kings of old were less like Scrooge Mcduck than billionaires of today, because they were unable to hoard their money like billionaires today can. And that's what makes today's billionaires Scrooge Mcduck.